So good evening. See, I almost said good morning, but it's definitely evening time.
Yeah, you never get your times right at this
Ex-
point.
exactly. What's going on is Kelson,
It's JayCee.
and we are
Yes, indeed, the AM
AM
click.
Click.
Yes.
And
Good evening, everybody.
yeah,
Yeah, we should
no,
be
we up early in the morning, 6 to 10, starting your day.
and we
But
should
now
be asleep right now.
we're going to put you to bed, baby.
So welcome to the Minorities in Mental Health. We're talking adolescents tonight. So of course, as we know, our babies have been under attack. And we was like, yo, we got to do something about it. So why not give the parents some experts to talk to, and we can have a great conversation, and everybody walk away with something that not only if you don't have kids, but you have nieces, nephews, godkids, or grandchildren that you're raising, we'll get those answers tonight.
Yeah, but special thank you to Sheppard, Pratt, and our other sponsor, Nami, for helping us put this thing together tonight. I'm ready to get this thing started because clearly we see the news every day. These babies need some help. So let's go ahead and get them as much information that we can. One of our first guests for the evening tonight, let's welcome Miss Shawmickia Simmons.
Woo!
Hello, everyone. My name is Shawmickia Simmons. I am a program director for Sheppard Pratt. My program works to provide school-based mental health services to students in Baltimore City public schools.
Okay. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And, exactly. And next, we're going to bring your counterpart up, Ashley Claiborne.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley Claiborne. I'm a clinical social worker. I worked for the child and adolescent unit for like 3 years at Sheppard Pratt on the inpatient side. Now I'm on the outpatient residential side at the new Life Launch Retreat for adolescents. But I've done these, panels, forums probably about 4 to 5 times. So I'm excited to be back and to be able to offer some tips and stuff to families, loved ones, caregivers. So yeah.
Love that. Definitely welcome aboard tonight. And then there's no point in talking about adolescents because adults we can talk with blue in the face, but it's nothing better than hearing from a child who's actually living this every day as they go to school. So our next guest is Miss Markayah Johnson.
Hi.
How you doing, Markayah?
I'm good. I'm from Blessed Out, Baltimore. It's like a youth-oriented program where it helps youth deal with their mental health, issues at home and issues in school. And we also reach out to their families and help them as well.
And Markayah, you're a high school student. Go ahead and say the school.
I go to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute.
You just had to get that out.
Yeah, she had to, definitely.
And rounding out this amazing panel that we have so far, Miss Shereese Strong.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. My name again is Shereese Strong, and I am on the board of directors for Nami, Maryland. Nami is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. We are the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, and we operate at a national, state, and local level. So thank you for inviting us here.
All right.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for being here tonight. Kaya getting some love already.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So okay, cool. So let's get this conversation started the right way. Okay, so let's start from where everybody's mind literally went through a journey, and we're going to talk COVID, right? Everybody had to really go through a difficult process. Everybody had to learn themselves and learn your kids a lot more than you think you did know. What are some mental health concerns that COVID brought on that now have increased through the youth and now are still lingering throughout schools today? And to make it easier, I'll start with Kaya because you actually live this and are still involved in the school. So I'll get your opinion first and we can pass it around.
Okay. So I'll start off by saying when COVID happened, it was very unexpected. So it was at first it was fun for a lot of kids, but then when we had to go virtual with learning and stuff like that, a lot of kids needed help with their work and stuff, but they had to figure it out on their own. And that really led to depression because a lot of people wouldn't leave their rooms. They would just sit in the room all day and sit in the bed. So it kind of led to depression. And then when we went back to school now, it's that just got worse because now we have to adjust to something new. Like just like we had to adjust to COVID, we had to adjust to being right back in school, 8 hours a day, constantly, like no breaks at all. So like it started off with COVID and it just made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And now people have to learn how to adjust back to school and being around people all day and not being able to stay home all day. But
Right.
it's kind of hard because that's what we were so used to for like a year and a half, I believe it was.
Right.
Like we left middle schoolers and then we're high schoolers that have to
Yeah.
deal with it because it's like, oh wait, we already in this new school and now I have to go back to being in person. So it was like kind of like it was a big adjustment.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, like you said, you went from one school level which doesn't have the same ramifications or elevations that high school has. So your friends change and your atmosphere changes and your environment changes. So Kaya, I'm gonna leave you with that thought process and I'm gonna open it up to the other panelists because I want to know from your perspective, what are some of the things that have been the most what are the cases that you've heard the most of, I should say, from the youth?
Well, I just want to, it's an important statistic that came from the CDC. It found that mental health related visits to the emergency rooms during the COVID time jumped from 24% of children for children ages 5 to 11 to 31% ages 12 to 17. And that was just from April to 20th. I mean, so it definitely an increase in the emergency rooms involving mental health related visits. So that's something to take note of.
And being on the inpatient side of Sheppard Pratt, literally like when before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, especially on like the adolescent child, that was my whole area. Definitely an increase in anxiety. So admissions spiked up. So depression, from staying at home. Most of the kids who were super social and very active in sports, have very active social lives, they were more on the depressed side, just being like locked up, in one contained area. For the kids who had more school anxiety, they thrived. Like it was like, okay, I don't like have to be around a whole bunch of people. I don't have to be in a contained area. And it literally switched. So when school got back in session, all of the anxiety kids became depressed because they were thrown back into an environment that was overstimulating again. All of the depressed kids had anxiety. So we had captain of football teams and cheerleading teams who were petrified to go back to school because of the fear of, reintegrating, well, are my friends still going to be my friends? I haven't seen them. Do we look alike? Do we sound alike? Like Kaya was saying, going from like 8th grade to like 10th grade. Or, going from 11th grade to college and just having that disconnect, that was a major shift. So definitely on both spectrums, getting shot back into it was a lot.
Yeah. Shawmickia?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that depression, anxiety, both have increased over the last 2 years or so. A lot of adjustment adjusting from being in school, being around your people, your support system that kids have, and then suddenly having that taken away. And now everybody is virtual. You can still talk to your friends. Some people can still talk to their friends virtually, but a lot of kids I have worked with in the past, they have friends that they interact with, but they only interact with them in school. So you've gone from seeing these people every single day and interacting with them every single day to not at all. And pretty much without notice. They went to school, and at the end of the school day one day, they were told, we're not coming back. We don't know when we're coming back. We're coming back in 2 weeks. We're coming back in a month. We're coming back next year. And then it just kept getting extended. So that in and of itself. And then once schools did reopen, readjusting to the new pattern of, well, now I've gotten used to interacting with everybody virtually. Now my new normal is I am off from school on Wednesdays. I don't have to go to school on Wednesdays, or I only have this many hours of school per day. And to Kaya's point, now they're back to being in school for 6-8 hours a day, when in the past there was some flexibility there. So I've seen a lot of issues with adjustment. I've seen a lot of concerns with attention, being able to focus. It's very different doing your schoolwork and engaging in a one-on-one setting. You're at home, either by yourself or with siblings and families, than being in a classroom with 29 other students and other distractions that are going on. So I think over the last year or so, as students have begun to get reintegrated into school, they've needed more support, more mental health support, more support from their parents, from their teachers, and from their peers. Whether those peers have changed or they've been able to maintain those friendships over the course of the COVID pandemic. I just think in general, these kids that are in the school system just need more support, which is why I'm glad we're here talking about this today.
Shawmickia, did you find yourself, I believe when you introduced yourself, you said you're the program director, correct?
Correct.
Did you find yourself creating more classes or not classes, but programs or changing programs how they were due to the onset of COVID and the transition and everything for the youth?
So I am actually a brand new program director. So all throughout the COVID pandemic, I was actually a psychotherapist. So I was switched over from in-person to telehealth services pretty much for most of COVID. I only recently joined Sheppard Pratt as a program director, and the program that I work for is brand new. So we have the unique experience of being able to mold this program to the needs that the kids have now. We have the opportunity to think about what is life like for them now that schools are fully reopened. I hesitate to say post-COVID because we're still in the middle of COVID, but mold things to their needs as of now. And that looks like within the program, individual treatment, group treatment. We do some classroom prevention activities, working on mindfulness and just educating and trying to normalize mental health care as much as possible.
And for the audience, audience, you said psychotherapy. Can you break that down for them so that way they know specifically what you are handling?
Absolutely.
And for me too.
Absolutely. So psychotherapy is really just the act of providing therapeutic services related to mental health. So addressing needs such as anxiety, depression, attention, mood challenges, peer relationships, and family relationships, family dynamics. Really encompasses anything that's mental health related, getting treatment, intervention, and therapy services for would all fall under the umbrella of psychotherapy.
Kaya, as a student, do you think that kids feel comfortable talking to therapists and stuff about the things they're going through? Or do you think it's like hard for them really to get out how they really feel?
It honestly depends on the student because like some people are really like more closed off. Like I've met people who are really closed off and they feel like no one understands. So they feel like it's best just to not talk to anybody and just to keep it to themselves. But then there's other people who will speak out when they need help and like do stuff like that. And it's also that some people aren't trusting that if they tell an adult something about how they really feel, that they're going to listen to them and not tell everyone else or take it to the next level. Like they'll say something and it just be how they feel in the moment, but then it'll get taken to another level and they make it seem like, well, maybe you need like more help, but it's like sometimes it's not like that. It's just how they feel in the heat of the moment. Mm-hmm. So like some people are trusting and some people aren't, and some people feel like, well, I'll be fine. I don't really need it, because they'll feel like, well, I don't really need it. I made it this far. Why do I need help now? Mm-hmm. And then others are like, I'm gonna just reach out because I know I need help and I know I can't handle it on my own.
And I'm taking notes. So if y'all see me look down, I got nieces, nephews, god kids. So I'm taking notes.
And like also, I want to add, some people don't know it's okay. Like some people were raised in homes where it wasn't okay to speak up if there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. Like they don't know, like they feel like if they express themselves, then they're just being a crybaby or they're being emotional, or they don't know how to express themselves. So they don't know how to, because they weren't taught that. So that's also another reason why a lot of people like don't reach out and don't say anything, because they weren't taught how to. Like honestly starts at home. Like, and like I was let's talk about
from the kids' mouth. I just want the parents to hear this.
Yeah, so Kaya, you're right. You're absolutely right, Kaya. And I wanted to say, because we're talking about school, but also the change in the pandemic is some kids found that their safe place was at school. And so now there's nowhere to go because they're living in a toxic environment, right? And so not only with that, the therapy with the kids who were actually going on site to therapy was shut down on site. You had to find telehealth, which was which was very hard during that time because everybody was trying to find telehealth appointments at that time. So it was very hard. So for NAMI, what we started to see a trend, like we started to have to offer programs for parents on self-care or mindfulness and trying to get the household to get a little more alignment because the kids were going through, but also the household itself was going through a lot of changes too.
So what tips would you give to people who want to speak out about their mental illness or issue that they're having about speaking with someone?
Me?
Anybody? Shawmickia, Ashley, Shereese?
Say the question again. I'm sorry.
What tips or advice would you suggest to the youth to get them to open to speak about mental illness or issues that they are going through? Because like Kaya said, some don't feel comfortable about doing it.
I think finding like an appropriate outlet. So like during COVID, hospitals don't close. So Sheppard Pratt was open the entire time on the inpatient side. So throughout COVID, kind of seeing the myriad of kids who came in and how they were impacted different ways. Their outlets are different. There's some kids who don't have access to the internet or to a computer or a cell phone. Right. So I think kind of putting that at the forefront as well, that not every kid could utilize telehealth and like how can they advocate, for themselves. Some kids did that through music, through drawing, through writing. So a lot of times kids would express themselves creatively. A lot of the kids that I interacted with on the inpatient side, that's how they express themselves, through art. That's how the parents were able to identify any changes or any support. Kids who were more on the artistic side, their drawings or artwork went from being lively to kind of being very dark, dull. I've had parents kind of bring in pictures and comparison of what that looked like. So reaching out creatively could also be an outlet, but a tip would be to find someone that you trust and to not feel immense pressure or rush. Because if a kid, meeting from a kid, if, and Kaya, you can jump in as well. If you feel like you're forced to do something or speaking to someone that you don't really have a connection with, you can close off. And then also a kid knowing or starting to learn that it does not have to be your parent. Like you can connect with a godmother. It could be someone that your neighbor that you're close to and you have conversations with. It could be your best friend's mom. That a person of support doesn't look like a therapist, meaning that you formally have to go and sit down and talk to someone. Therapy could be going on a walk and just venting, or going, with your favorite person and doing something. So that's pretty much kind of my take. But Kai, I'm interested to hear what you think.
Honestly, the best tip that I could give is to know that it's okay to not be okay, really. Because a lot of people always say that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay, but they don't really feel that. Know that everyone has their problems. Most people may not show that they have. It might not show on the outside, but on the inside, a lot of people are feeling a lot of different things. So just know that it's okay to reach out. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel like that you have to reach out and that you need help. There's nothing wrong with that. It's really okay. In a moment, it may feel like the worst thing ever, but it'll get better eventually. And just know that it's okay to feel that way for a while.
I love it. And again, we want to thank Sheppard Pratt and Nami for being our sponsors for tonight. And of course, if you do have an adolescent that is exhibiting some of the things that we're talking about, the website and number will continue to scroll at the bottom of the screen all night. And if you have questions and you want to hear something, please drop them in the chat. Our producer will make sure that we get them up here. I want to go a little deeper because now listen, all of us up here are African American. So
last time I checked, I was definitely,
you know what I'm saying? I'm a little light, but I know I am, okay? And we know that before the pandemic, parents, guardians would put all of the emphasis back on the educator or the guidance counselor for the behavior or not having certain things done. What are some tips that we can give parents to pay attention to and how to be more involved with the parents, with their kids now, because of the fact that they now know that they teacher won't lie at this point? Let's go ahead and call a spade a spade. Okay. They know the teacher wasn't lying. They had to deal with their kids a lot more. So what are some tips that we can give so that way it's not blame first and it's versus let's have a conversation first?
I would say for parents, honestly, to try to normalize as much as possible. So having conversations just in the household. Someone had mentioned earlier that a lot of households, you don't talk about mental health. That's not a topic of conversation. It's not even something that's allowed. You're not allowed to be upset. You're not allowed to be sad. You're not allowed to be anxious. You just need to keep going. So
don't pray about it.
Exactly. And sometimes we need a little bit more. I mean, if that works for you, that's great. But sometimes we need a little bit more support than that.
Yeah, no, I pray every day. I still need my therapist, child.
Exactly.
Okay.
So finding ways for parents to normalize, checking in with your kids, asking them what's going on, and paying attention to differences. If you're noticing changes in your child, so if they normally like to do these activities, but suddenly they don't like to do them anymore, check in with them about it. And even if everything seems normal, still check in, because a lot of kids are pretty good at hiding from their parents. So they may feel this internal struggle, or they may be dealing with things that there's no external, there's no outward appearance that something is wrong, but they're dealing with stuff on the inside. And if they don't feel that they have a person, whether that's a parent or a friend or a godparent or any adult or person that they can talk to, they're going to keep that inside. They're going to feel like there's nowhere for them to get help. So I would say for parents, trying to normalize and checking in.
Go ahead, Ashley.
I think another thing is like reciprocity. I think that it's always like put on the child a lot too. You need to talk to me. I want you to open up. And it's a pressure there where it's okay for a parent to initiate a conversation. It's okay for a parent to say like, oh my gosh, I had the worst week. Like, I just need to get it out. Like, can I tell you about such and such? Like, it's okay to be an example and utilize, your child and have a reciprocal communication, because I could feel uncomfortable with telling my mom about something that happened with my friend. And if my mom initiates a conversation like, I'm just really going through it this week, my coworker such and such and such and such, it would open a window, that small piece your kid could take something out of there, like, oh yeah, my friend such and such did the same thing to me this week and I can't. And it just allows kind of a balance of support, and it allows your child to feel like, okay, my mom or dad feels, or guardian feels just as comfortable talking to me as they want me to talk to them. It kind of takes the pressure away from, you need to tell me all of these things, and it makes it more of a conversation. Like, I'm invested as well. I can come to you with some issues that I might be having too.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm grown and I'm still just learning some things about my parents that are helping me heal as an adult, right? Because most of us adults are still hurt from our 13, 14, 15-year-old self. So I'm going to ask this to Kaya, and then I'm going to pose the question around as to Kaya, if you don't mind sharing, and y'all let me know if this is a HIPAA violation, because I don't want us to, no ma'am, no ham, no turkey, no bacon. Okay. I want to know if you have been able to have those uncomfortable conversations, or your parents or guardians were able to share, listen, let me give you the real. So when I was 16, I slept with this person and I almost ended up pregnant, and I those uncomfortable conversations, because those are the ones that honestly show us that our parents are human and not that they have it all together. So Kaya, have you been able to have that type of environment? And then panelists, if you want to chime in after that, please do.
Yeah, like during COVID, even though like it really did start like some of my like mental health issues and stuff, my mother was very helpful, because it'll be situations like, I forgot, I think it was Ashley who brought it up earlier. If it wasn't, I apologize. But like, we were so used to being around kids every day, and it was like, oh hey, you're my friend, that like it would be conversations where I would tell her like I really felt like alone and stuff. And she'll be like, well, you see me, like, you see who I hang around the same people all the time. And it's like, it's okay to, like, she explained to me that basically it's okay to feel alone as long as you're okay with being alone. Like, I don't know how to break it down, but like, she experienced like feeling alone too, and that it was okay to feel like that, but just like know that you're really not alone. It just feels like that, you know. And she was like very like understanding of how I felt and didn't try to like change my opinion on how I felt. And she basically like made, I forgot what the scenario was that she told me about, but she like related her problems to mine, and it really did help because it was like, oh wait, I'm not the only person who has ever felt like this before. And it was very, it was like it helped me deal with it better.
Yeah.
And I know. Go ahead, Shereese.
Oh no, I was going to say that. So I'm a parent. I have a couple of teenagers and who are going through mental health issues, and we keep it real in this family, in my household, because I too, it was taboo growing up, and so so I would say for the parent, get as much help for yourself so that you can communicate with your kids. My son, he was graduating senior year, going through a lot of stress over, he was basketball, thinking he was going to D1 college, and then COVID hit him. He started having anxiety, panic attacks. It took a little while for me to recognize it, but when I did, I said, "Hold up, something is going on here. We need to talk." And then found out that he was medicating. And I wanted to, go off. No, no, no. But this is because I know mental health now, because I'm more aware and we're able to talk about it as a family. Hey, you know what? I know why. He told me, he said, "Mom, I'm doing this because it helps me with my symptoms." I say, I understand. But let's talk about your triggers. Let's talk about some things that will help you. Let's get the help that you need. Let's get some talk to somebody that you probably can be more comfortable with, So more is more. We just got to be more comfortable talking about these type of things, anxiety and stress and depression, and make it real life, everyday conversations in our household. But in order for us to talk to our kids, we have to get healthy ourselves, We have to get healthy ourselves in our community. So that's all.
I know one thing for me that during the beginning of COVID, where we really couldn't go anywhere. Suppose if you had to be, I was going to work, the grocery store, or back home.
Right.
I kind of got, and speaking of transition, like I've been trying to transition to get back in the world and start going places again, but I was so used to just being home with my daughter and I. Now it's like, okay, do I need to go out anymore? Like, do I need to, try to overextend myself to have friends and family like that? That's one thing that COVID did for me. It kind of got depressing because it's like I'm just by myself, just me and my daughter. I don't need no friends, and it's not really a bad thing, but it can be a very challenging thing when you're trying to, be normal again. So I understand the transition can be very challenging and very hard.
I see Tia is up on the screen. I know Kaya wanted to address, I believe it was Kendall's statement first, and then let's redirect back to Tia's. So B, if you can put Kendall's statement up, because I know Kaya has her fresh on her brain. So I want to make sure she answers that. Go ahead, Kaya.
It's kind of related to what I said earlier, so it popped in my mind.
Right.
Like I stated earlier, I'm with Let's Thrive, and like we have programs that like help parents too. Like it helps the kids, but there are also programs that help the parents to like deal with their traumas. Because like Miss Lisa told me earlier, there's no way to erase it because what happened, it already happened. But there's ways that we can help you build through it and break through it and realize that yes, it happened, but now I know how to deal with it instead of just randomly lashing out on my kids and randomly telling them that it's not okay to feel the way you feel because why do you feel like that?
Right.
Like there are programs to help people with that. And if we don't have a program that you feel like is best for you, we also have other resources that can get you help that you feel like you need. So yeah.
So basically just seek out for the information because it is available.
Yes.
And then B, can you pop that up? Go ahead, Kels.
I'll throw it out there because there's a lot of people like, I can't afford no counseling. I can't talk to nobody. Are there programs out there that people can, reach out to that's not costing an arm and a leg and you don't need insurance for?
We're free.
Okay.
Well, look at that. Would you look at that?
Okay.
This is we actually just opened up a clinic and it's called Moloch Cares. It's for like, all right, this might sound a little rude, but there's like certain programs that like when African American families specifically, like they may miss a couple appointments or they may show up late too much, they get put out of the programs. So Ms. Lisa opened up a program where it's free. You can come, express how you feel and not be like put out of it really. Like if you need transportation, she provides transportation. If you feel like you need something else besides that, like outside of that. Also, she helps with that also, and like she like if you explain to her your situation and everything like that, she'll move things around to make it fit you, so you don't have to fit the program that you feel like is like the stigma that I have to be on time, I have to be perfect no matter how I'm feeling. I made an appointment, I have to be there. Like she's very flexible when it comes to getting people the help they need and understanding other people's situations, and not just saying, oh, well, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for this. She'll come out of her own pocket if she needs to make sure that you get the help that you feel like you need, because she just really wants like we as a whole, like the group, we really want people's mental health to get better, and they don't feel like they have to pay an arm and a leg and go do all these drastic things to get help.
Love that.
Yeah, and also we're free as well. Nami, we have 11 local affiliates across the state. Basic to basic training. Anyone anyone who's caregivers. We got teenagers. We got youth groups. All are free and can be found on NamiMaryland.org. So, all free resources.
No, we had another question. I have a set of 13-year-old boy-girl twins. This is the first time they are back in school since the pandemic. How would I recognize if my children are experiencing social anxiety? Anybody? But
I'm going to let the clinicians answer that.
It could be like a school avoidance, kind of isolation, not really wanting to do preferred activities. So social anxiety can kind of mirror depression in a sense, where you have issues being around like a large amount of people. So it could be not speaking up in class, or kind of feeling anxious being in a closed-in setting, eating lunch by yourself, any type of social climate that a kid withdraws from. So let's say a teacher calls and says like, hey, there's absolutely no engagement, they're not focused. That could be a sign of social anxiety for a parent. School kind of reluctance or refusal, or very heightened sense of like irritability or agitation when it comes to being in social settings that might not just be with school. It could start with school, but those are, some small things. So school avoidance, I don't want to go, or things like I can't go, even stuff like potentially skipping classes, anything that would kind of isolate someone from a social setting.
Yeah, so also just to add to that, we talk about this in some of our NAMI groups, is that, children, they might benefit from being evaluated and treated if they sleep too much or sleep too little. They have frequent nightmares. They seem sleepy during the day. They're not interested in playing with other children. Difficulty making friends. They have a loss in interested in things that they were used to enjoy. Low energy. Gaining weight, rapidly, and exercising excessively. They engage in self-harm behavior, drugs, smoking, drinking, and things like that. All of those could be, signs that they may benefit from getting evaluation and treated.
So what if I need help, right? But Black households, you don't see no therapist, but how can I submit some stuff anonymously to get help for what I'm going through? Are there programs for that as well?
I'm just gonna let Miss Shereese go. You're the resource.
No. So of course, yes. And only like I can speak for Nami, but I can also speak from personal experiences too. But yes, there are. Of course, you got the internet, right? But you also have these NAMI programs with youth, and particularly they go and their parents are not in there with them. Probably not their friends, but they're amongst their peers, which is very helpful because you're sharing between each other. So yeah, you're going to have a NAMI teacher there, the leader there, but that's it. I mean, you're in a room, you're taking classes, you're learning, and you're also sharing and talking. So although it's not anonymous per se, it probably is where you don't know anyone there, that, which is helpful.
I do know that sometimes if you don't got to put a face or name to it, it's easier. It may be easier for them to, voice their concern or talk about their issues that they are having.
Mm-hmm. I found out that my child was depressed. Kendall says, I found out that my child was depressed and suffering by checking her Google history and YouTube search history, also by changes in her behaviors. Yeah, definitely. And how can, because I know, and Kaya, you can talk to this. How would that make you feel if you know that people are going behind you they're searching what you're searching on the web, and then they find out these things? Would that make you shut down, or would you be open to the conversation? Like, how would you navigate that if that was you?
If that was me, well, one, at first I would probably be like defensive about it, be like, well, why are you going through my phone? Why are you going through this? Da, da, da. But then after, I'll feel like, hey, you cared. Like, when people are depressed, a lot of times they feel like no one cares. And it'd be like you took the extra step to show that you care. So at first I'll be defensive, and then I'll be like, well, I really do appreciate you caring. Like, what's the next step, really? Like, now that you know, how are you going to help me not feel this way?
Right. And what would be the, and I think this is key too, because, and I definitely want to pose this towards you, because you said defensive, which means there's only a certain tone level that will get you to come down to be able to open up. So if there is a way, what is a way that what you would take on that? Okay, you done went through my phone, you defensive now it's like, okay, what is the tone of voice that will get you to trust to even have the conversation?
A thing that a lot of parents that I've been noticing recently, they do is they'll be like, I apologize for invading your privacy, but I'm glad I did it. Like, I really do apologize for going through your stuff. Like, when you were ready, you probably want to come to me, but like, just really like check on them, like ask. So I know it's like a stupid question to some people, but like really ask, like, are you okay? Like, what do you need to feel better? And even if it's just in this moment, like, what do you need to feel better, feel supported? Like, is there something missing? And like stuff like that. Like, don't be like, as a parent or somebody, if you would find that, don't yell at them. Like, because yelling at them and saying, well, why did you come to me first? Why did you feel like you had to do the whole runaround instead of just coming to me? That causes a lot of people to shut down, because it's like, well, maybe I'm wrong for feeling like this, but maybe I should not have done that. Maybe I shouldn't do it again. And because, like she said, she found it in their search history, I believe.
Right.
It is like, I went there for help instead of coming to you for a reason. And this is the reason why, because you're yelling at me and you're shutting me down and you're basically making me feel crazy for how I'm feeling. So like, really be accepting and understanding. Like, even if you need to take a break and think about what you say before you say it to the child, just do that, and don't come off as you shouldn't feel this way, or why didn't you come to me first? I'm your parent, I'm your guardian, I'm whatever. Like, don't make it feel like they were entitled to tell you how they feel.
But sometimes as parents,
Kelson was jumping out of his skin when you were saying that. I just thought
but sometimes as parents, we're so passionate, like we want to control everything. It's natural to be so upset and be up here. So I'm sure the clinicians say sometimes we gotta calm down.
Take a step back sometimes.
The situation.
Yeah, take a step back sometimes.
Yeah. And I think this generation is inquisitive about everything. They want to know, like, I came up in a generation, why are you asking me this question? Didn't I say? What did I say? And that took us back from being able to have those conversations and have the direction that we probably needed as an adult today. So, panelists, what else? She said key words that we know is hard, challenging in the Black community. I apologize, okay, especially coming from a parent. So how important is that? Okay, because everybody got pride, everybody got ego, but pride and ego will kill you faster than diabetes. I just thought y'all should know that tonight, okay? I don't know who that was for, but I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle that Jesus on you, okay? Can you give us some things as to how important it is to reaffirm or reassure the child before even trying to get the answers?
I think it's crucial. It's necessary, especially if your child feels like they can't go to you. They feel like it's a punishment. If I bring this issue to my parent, it's not going to be received well. And that could be a barrier for them from them seeking that help. They may choose to self-medicate or choose to use other unhealthy coping skills because they don't feel like they can approach the situation. So I think it's crucial for parents to, one, sometimes everybody gets elevated. Take a step back, try to regulate yourself first before going into a high stress situation or a high stress conversation with a child. If you're going into the situation angry or frustrated, it's going to cause tension in that conversation, which could likely do more harm than good. Versus a parent going into it saying, you know, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to regulate myself. I'm going to help myself calm down. And then we're going to come back to this conversation with fresh eyes, and we're going to work together, make it collaborative. It's not, I'm telling you, you need to do these things. It's, okay, well, what is it that you need? How can I support you? And working really together with the child rather than saying you need to do X, Y, Z. And then owning up when you do make a mistake, because people get angry and sometimes they yell, and it's okay to apologize to your children if you do something that you should not have done.
Child, they still waiting on the apologies from their parents. That's why we don't get no apology today. So,
like I think with
just
parents
wait.
and apologizing, like I think they have to realize that, all right, parents, I'm sorry, this might strike a nerve. But y'all have to understand that we're also human beings. Even though we're kids, y'all have to understand that we're still humans. We still have emotions, and we still deserve a level of respect. Like y'all tell us to give respect, you got to give it. So y'all got to give us respect if y'all want us to be open. Like,
watch it, Kaya.
It's like you can apologize to your friends, but you can't apologize to your child. Like, it doesn't really go together.
So good, Kaya. And also what's important is sometimes we just don't have the communication skills to do this, right? It's hard. So we have to ask somebody else to help us with this. We get help, you know, call someone, search the internet, Google. I mean, many times, I mean, when I realized that my son was going through this and he was self-medicating, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm Googling, what do I tell my teenage son? You know, so just trying to get myself together so that I can have that conversation, because, you know, it's hard as a parent. So if you can't do it and you know that needs to be done, get someone else. You know, get someone else, have a friend, family member, sister, somebody that you can talk to first and have that conversation with, and then bring it to your child.
How do we deal with the level of, because I'm for breaking the stigmas and generational curses. I'm sorry, y'all, that's just me. But how do we, the Black household has a level of, like we said, pride and ego, but then there's the other E word, there's the embarrassment, right? And how do we break the embarrassment level of saying my child has a therapist or outside? Because we'll take them to physical therapy, we'll take them to the doctor, we'll take them, you know, we trust all these people to, you know, do whatever they got to do. But when it comes to dealing with the mind of it all, how do we, because we say reach out to people if you can't talk to me, how do we get past the embarrassment level that's associated with it when it really doesn't have to be there?
I think the major thing is, like, people don't have to know your business. I think it's this warped mindset of like, oh my gosh, someone's going to ask or someone's going to know. You don't have to say anything. Like, getting your child mental health help doesn't have to be a sticker on a shirt. Like, I'm taking my child to go see a therapist, you know, just like going to a pediatrician or getting shots. Like, that's not something you broadcast and announce. Like, if someone asks, you have the, you know, autonomy and the confidentiality to do so. But the major thing that has worked in all of my families, I do family therapy now, is ask the kid, oh my goodness, what they are comfortable with other people knowing. Just check in and say, hey, you know, would you be comfortable with me talking to Aunt Tanya about, you know, my day and, you know, maybe taking you to therapy, because that is something that I did today. What do you want the narrative to be? Do you want it to be that, you know, you're going to a sporting event? You know, how would you like to keep this information private and take it off of the individual embarrassment and direct it back to the person who's actually experiencing it? Because then that becomes a selfish motive. That becomes, I'm uncomfortable with this, so I need to figure out how to maneuver around it, when it's not about you at all.
I'm
so
very
passionate about that. Sorry, but yeah, it's not about them.
And I'm glad you said that, because growing up, you know, dealing with the death of my mother, my father, all before the age of 10, and other child trauma, I did go see a therapist at Sheppard Pratt. But like for the longest time, I would never admit that. I'm not saying I want to go see no therapist, but now it's like it's nothing wrong with it, because clearly we need it. I still need the things, but there's nothing wrong with going to see a therapist and getting the help that you need because it makes you a better person and also helps you to be able to help someone else.
Yeah,
I also think, Kelson, like not forcing it and not making yourself like the advocate for all parents who are kids are struggling for mental health, right? So like that stuff is already out there. Like there are people who advocate for that. And again, checking in with the kid and saying, okay, do you want to tag team on this?
Right.
Are you comfortable with this? Like, yes, that could be a private conversation that's had, you know, like, I'm glad you're doing this. How do you feel? And I feel like with social media, even adults feel like this is something they have to broadcast. Like, I'm your biggest advocate. I want everyone to know that and again, it goes into a selfish motive or selfless. Like, I want other people to know that you're not the only one or I'm not the only parent, but not everybody needs to be an advocate, which is why I said it is a collaborative effort. The main focus is on you and your child and that connection and opening communication. What you don't want to do is close it by trying to be like a Malcolm X. Like you want to make sure you keep it within the circle of support.
I know this conversation, we've danced around it, and I know Kelson's probably like, you ain't said nothing about this yet, so I'm surprised. But we have danced around this, and everybody has mentioned the athlete part of this. I'm a former athlete. I played basketball in college. Well, I will say it this way. I was supposed to play basketball in college. However, I had some moments in college that allowed me to experience the collegiate level, but I had high school coaches and athletic directors that derailed my opportunity. So I never played on the collegiate level. Wasn't my grades, wasn't my attitude, just had some bad cases that came my way, and I never saw my jersey and never made it on the roster. I suffered from 10 years of depression, emotional eating, anxiety. I even had suicidal thoughts, tried to commit suicide because of the fact that I wrapped my ambition and my life and my livelihood and my name into my sport because that's how much you put into it. And then the family dynamic, of course, we all know Baltimore is birthing athletes, but they don't necessarily get the attention towards it. Now we do have some parents probably on here that have athletes. And Shereese, I know you said your son was attempting to go D1 and things of that nature. Can we talk about how it's important to involve our kids in other things while being a part of the sports, so that way they still get the dynamics of having personable and social skills that are not in their jersey? Because once it comes off, it's like taking a cape off Batman. You don't know what's happening after this.
I guess I should say something first, but this is so fresh, JayCee. It's so fresh. So, so it's interesting that same thing my son is going through, and it literally was an identity crisis. But I didn't realize how much of a crisis it was for me too. Because so it literally changed for all this time. You're taking them to these sporting events and have all the, helping with his dreams and money, and everything halted very quickly, and so he had to go to counseling quickly.
Yeah.
He had to go to therapy quickly. And not only did he have to go, I had to go because I didn't realize how much my dreams was into that,
Yep.
and how much it changed everything around us. So yeah, therapy, we talked about taboo when you talked about the therapy is no longer somebody who's at the end of the road and just sitting on a couch and talking to someone, right? Therapy is a everyday life self care type of thing,
Yes.
That's what therapy is. So we have to start thinking therapy, looking at therapy not as it's the end of the road or something bad is happening. This is a part of everyday life. I have a therapist just because I have a therapist, right? And my kids, they hate change, and I know that about them. Not that so anytime when I know something is going to change, I'm calling the therapy up. Hey, this is ready to happen. Can you walk them through this step? And not that it is
Right.
bad going to happen, but just preparing them for this change, you know. So we gotta know our kids. But JC, I'm feeling you. It's still fresh for me, and I'm still walking through it. I'm still walking.
Listen,
And he is too.
it's a reason why so aside this is I call it the rebrand, right, of my life, because this was supposed to be the second act, right? I was supposed to go play ball, go, you know what I'm saying, play WNBA, get drafted, all these different things. Now, of course, here's the thing. As a female, I don't make nearly as much as the male would have. So my thought process was already having to have almost like a part-time situation just so that way. But because I love the game so much, I was okay with that. And you don't necessarily think of it from the monetary perspective, but what you do consider is you think you've let your family down, because most athletes look at this as the ticket out. They look at it from the perspective of, you know, I can be the person that can get my family out of this situation. We don't want to always live here. We've been able to even travel on teams, especially if you're on AAU teams and things of that nature. You start seeing the world outside of Baltimore City and Baltimore County. You like, wait a minute, hold on. They got different buildings. It's colors on these buildings. Like, it's glass windows over here. Do you see the courts over there? That is nice. We got to move. So you just start opening your eyes up and you like, wow. And so Kaya, I see that you said without sports, you don't even know what to do. Talk to me. Talk to me.
So middle school, I didn't start playing sport. Well, I run track and I play basketball. I didn't start doing any of this until I got to high school. So before, I really was like normal. But then now that I've experienced sports, like high school sports and fun and stuff, it's really fun to do. And it's like, it gives me something to entertain myself at the school. So instead of coming home, doing my work and just sitting here all day, it gives me something, it keeps me entertained. And like a lot of athletes, like you mentioned, like when we see the outside world outside of Baltimore and what sports can do for you, we have a goal. And when we feel like we can't meet that goal, it's like we feel like, I'm a disappointment. Like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I didn't do what I was meant to do. So like, and then a lot of athletes are like, well, I see that this person is doing this. Why am I not on that level?
Comparison.
Or this person is reaching this goal. Why am I not reaching it yet? So it's like also a lot of comparison now. Like it might have been like that then, but now it's like a lot of comparison, especially with social media and stuff. We see other athletes going different places, doing amazing things, and it's like we compare ourselves to them. So it pushes us to go even harder. So without that, it's like, what do I have to drive me to want to do better?
Kaya, do you use your athletic stuff as a form of therapy?
Yes, I do. Like when I feel upset, I will call my coach and say, Coach, I need to go run. I feel upset, I'm going outside to go play basketball, because it just helps clear my mind. I don't have to worry about anything but shooting the ball in the hoop and running through the finish line.
Yep.
And like it gives me relief, even if it's just temporary. It gives me relief for a little while.
Right.
And it clears my mind.
Shameless plug, you know, I'm Amazon bestseller for the book After the Season, right? Nami didn't pay for this. This is nothing that, right? And or Sheppard Pratt didn't pay for none of this. And the focus has been on making sure that athletes know the opposite side of life, and so they're able to see themselves again, because the difference is the mirror is our sport versus the mirror being on us. And so, you know, Kaya, it's good to hear that your therapy moments are you being able to go to the outlet. But what I would challenge, and I'm sure that any of the clinicians or anybody can speak on this, that take the moments to walk away from both sports and figure out who you are outside of it. Because when the day comes that the jersey no longer goes on your back, outside of you just wearing it over a hoodie trying to look cool, that you don't know who you are anymore, because your whole life was wrapped into being able to see yourself in that particular thought process. So I would ask if any of the panelists outside of Kaya, and then Kaya, you can speak on this as well. What are some other self-care things that athletes could even use, because they're a different type of, they got to go work out, they got to eat right, they eat, sleep, and breathe type situation. So what are the things that's different? Yeah, because Kelson, he knows Jim, J-I-M.
I think just identifying with like, what are other things that you enjoy doing, right? So we got the top two. We got Kai, I'm just using you for example, so I'm gonna pick on you right now, right? So we got track and we got basketball. Those are like top tier, right? So coming up with a list of 5 or 6 or 4 where you have your 2, but what are some other ones, and try to use those and kind of in a moment where you want to run track, see if something else works. See if okay, I really want to run, I'm really pissed off, but I know my other skill is like, I don't know, doing a makeup tutorial, something. And so you try that to see if it can help. I think a lot of the times kids, adults think that like a coping skill is something that you enjoy doing consistently, and that is not the case. So people will be like, I love watching Netflix, but when I'm upset, I don't want to watch Netflix. It doesn't help. Like, just because you like it doesn't mean it's a coping skill. You could hate journaling consistently, like hate writing stuff down. And when you are very upset or emotional, journaling is the best outlet for you. And so, and kind of stepping outside of the, well, what do I like to do? You know, okay, so let's identify what helps alleviate stress. Somebody could not like to run or be unathletic. And when they go to the gym, that's where they feel the most calm and at peace. So to kind of take your mind out of, I have to enjoy doing this consistently, and morphing it into, I might not do this on a day-to-day basis, but this might get me through a moment where I am upset.
I want to add on to that. People who know me personally, everybody says I do 1,000,005 different things, because like you mentioned, it's good to have other outlets just besides sports. Because what's going to happen when one day I'm too old to play sports, so I really just feel like I don't want to play anymore? Like, what can not fill the void, but what can give me the same feeling as when I'm playing basketball or when I'm running track? Like, I do things like I do hair, and like let's start Baltimore. I'm Lisa mentioned in the chat, like yoga, stuff like yoga, meditating, journaling, like I cook, I do hair, like all of those things can be used not to replace it, but to give you the same feeling as if you are playing a sport. Like, give you different, expand your horizon to do different things. Like, so you won't just be a one-trick pony. Like, hey, I'm feeling like, you could be in the car one day and be like, hey, I'm not really feeling the best. You can't just get up out the car and run away. You gotta like have methods and stuff that you can do in every moment, really.
So I see we got like 3 minutes before we're supposed to be ending it, but this is a very good conversation.
Yeah.
Before we, say our last minute plugs, we did get one question come in from someone watching the live right now, and they asked about DNA. So maybe this is for one of the clinicians. Is mental illness in the DNA?
I guess I can start with that, and anyone else can feel free to chime in. There's definitely been found to be a genetic link for mental health disorder. So if a parent has, let's say, for example, depression, there is a possibility that their child could also have depression. It's not a guarantee. And just because your child is displaying symptoms does not mean that you also have those same symptoms. So there is a genetic component, but it's not a 100% one-to-one correlation. Just because someone in your family does or does not have a mental health condition, that isn't fully dependent on whether or not your child displays any symptoms. There are a lot of environmental factors that are also at play, as well as genetics.
I think the other thing, other comment that I saw was speaking about how I believe the parent is only child, but she has twins, and she's concerned about possible what's a healthy amount of sibling rivalry without it being looked at as misplaced anger.
I can answer this one. Me and my brother, we sitting in here going at it. Like, you would think that we do not like each other, but it's honestly, siblings have like a different type of love. It's not a love-hate relationship, but it's a love-hate relationship. Like,
very much so.
I'm around you every day. I'm tired of seeing you. Like, we may have our moments where we just really don't want to be around each other. We may argue over stupid stuff, but at the end of the day, we still, you still my brother, you still my sister. I love you. Like, kids gonna argue, bicker, be childish. And like, it may seem like big to parents because they always want us to get along. But to us, it's just like, you be all right. You'll be back later. Like, you're not going anywhere. You are my sibling. You have to stay with me. So, like, yeah, it's like kids are going to bicker unless it gets to the point where like you can see that it gets physical too much, because kids gonna fight. It gonna fight until it gets like to the point where it's like too physical and it's like they're really hurting each other. Just let them argue. They'll get over it.
I think also, Kaya, kind of like the mental, emotional component of it when siblings go back and forth. I have a lot of siblings, but when it gets to a point where it's demeaning, where it is kind of like berating, where it's attacking, and not even from a physical perspective, I'm talking about from like a communication, emotional perspective. And if I guess what I call it is get back, if that kind of doesn't happen sooner than it should and it lingers, then that's an issue. And so as a sibling, if we argue, yeah, I'm not talking to you for a week, but if that turns into like weeks, or one sibling shies away from another sibling, kind of becomes withdrawn, doesn't want to be around, once there's a significant change in behavior from both siblings or one of them, that's definitely something for a parent to pay attention to. I mean, I have an older brother. I get that, but if there were ever to be a point where I presented like I was afraid of him, or I didn't want to be around him, or there was any type of fear, or even more so aggression on my end, then that would be something for parents to notice, kind of what that looks like. Also, in knowing your children and your kids and kind of what healthy versus unhealthy looks like for them.
So we wrap things up. Special thanks once again to Sheppard, Pratt, and Nami. In closing, can we all just go around, our clinicians, just give like one word of advice or information on how people can get resources to help deal with the issues that they are dealing with as it regards to mental health? Start with Shereese.
You're on mute, Shereese.
Sorry. Okay, so like we said before, especially we're hearing it more recently, but it's true that we are in this together, right? And so, and our children's health is our health, and then that there's no health without mental health. So at NAMI, we have an active online presence. We can be reached through our website, namimaryland.org, social media channels. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all at NAMI Maryland. We have 11 local affiliates across Maryland, and we serve more than 56,000 families across Maryland. So it's a very large presence in Maryland. We provide free trainings for family members and individuals living with mental illness to become more effective. And also, we have our 40th annual conference this year. That's a plug. So that's going to be held virtually October 14th and 15th. So contact us, Nami Maryland, and get plugged in.
Kaya, you have any closing remarks?
Word of advice would be like, love yourself and those around you, even the ones who don't love you. And I want to give a shout out to Lester out of Baltimore. They're in the chat. The name on everything is Lester out of Baltimore, and you can reach us there. And we have like different programs, like on Instagram and the Facebook. It should be all of the different programs we have as far as mental health. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's a lot. Like, as far as dealing with like mental health, reaching out if you need help. We have a healing garden for gun violence. We have, like I said, we have the clinic. We have a healing garden, and there's like a lot of different resources that you can visit. So it's Let's Start Baltimore, and the owner is Lisa Mulak, and I love her.
Thank you. Ashley.
As a worker at Sheppard Pratt, gotta plug Sheppard. So Sheppard has the kind of the crisis walk-in clinic now. They call it the psychiatric urgent care. So it went from like quick to PUC PUC, where there's no appointment needed. It's a crisis literally center that's incorporated into Sheppard Pratt, where anyone can come in and get a psychiatric evaluation, where for anyone in crisis, not like I need hospitalization right now crisis, but I need to go and talk to someone and kind of get an opinion of what I might need. Therapy referrals, that's really good. And also I think educating, talking with your kid, and for families and kids to also know that there are different type of therapies. There's play therapy, there's sports therapy, there's art therapy, there's occupational therapy. There's so many various forms of therapeutic services, which could also help foster the conversation with kids who might be struggling with mental health to identify what their strengths are. Like Kaya was saying, if your kid likes to run track, right? Or you notice that they're into sports. They might not be into, okay, sitting across from someone like Shereese was saying in kind of a traditional therapy setting. And you look for a sports therapist, and knowing that option is out there for them to get therapeutic support in a way that they connect with. So that's kind of what I'll end with, is talk and be aware that there are other forms of therapeutic services that are not traditional.
And last but certainly not least, Shawmickia.
Ashley already plugged some Sheppard Pratt things. We also are on all social media platforms as well. But my main takeaway and advice for families is really for parents to take care of themselves. It's very hard to take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. And just trying to destigmatize, have these conversations like we had today to get the message out there and let people know, students, children, parents, family members, older generation, to know that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to get help when you're not okay. It's okay to talk to someone.
All right. Well, listen, I don't know about you all, but I got what I came for tonight. This was amazing. All right. Thank you all for being a part of this, and thank you, an amazing audience, for chiming in. Y'all kept the chat jumping all hour long. Definitely want to make sure that you listen to the AM Click weekday mornings from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you don't know, we have a local morning show and this is the first time in a long time. All right. Which means that we also get to open up the door and have the conversation about mental health. We recently did it, and the outpouring response that we got while we were live on the air was amazing. So just trying to change the atmosphere when it comes to how radio is done in Baltimore, but also have the conversation, being Black individuals that can share their transparency and also help somebody else. So we appreciate you all for being a part tonight. We will talk to you all in the morning, but I know y'all getting ready to go to sleep now, and so am I. So
Definitely.
no, thank you so much. We appreciate you all, and y'all have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.